Good. You?
Call meeting to order. Shelley, can do roll call, please.
District 1? Present.
District 2, Councilman Starr?
Present.
District 3, Councilman
Present.
Vice Mayor Stapleton?
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez?
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley?
Here.
Mayor Demers?
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. Can you lead us in the invocation, Shelley, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day and this opportunity to give this meeting with the community members that serve with passion and commitment. We ask Father that you bless this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ariana, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 is executive meeting. And have item 1 is pursuant to ARS 38-431-03 and 4, council will receive legal advice and possibly give direction regarding contract modifications and the reason thereof regarding the community pool rehabilitation project.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, since we put this agenda together, we've had an offer from Structural and their architect to come forward and do a presentation on this. And so I'm not sure. I think that we need the executive session or that we need it right now. So I would say that we pause on the executive session and go to the action item and go through the presentation, have that discussion, and then if we need to break into e-session, we have that ability to too. And so, but Bill's on the line, and he'll be here for the whole meeting. So at any point we want to break into e-session, we have that ability, and we can come back to item 1.
Okay, so we'll go to action items. Item A, council will consider and possibly approve modification to contract number CS-2021-0030 with Structural Preservation Systems LLC to rehabilitate the Glow Community Swimming Pool.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, first I wanted to acknowledge the members of the Covert Valley Regional Hospitals here, and Neil and Preston and Linda. I don't know if you want to jump up and save me if you want to come to the podium. I'm going to start, and then I'm going to tag team with you, okay, and explain this. So I wanted to do the reason I want to do a little background for the public and the people watching. When we last left off, we had moved forward with a contract to do improvements to the pool with Structural, with a contract and with a due date of May 15th. That would be the completion date. After that, we were surprised when the hospital came forward, and happily surprised, I meant to say, when the hospital came forward and offered to join in with that. And I'll let Linda do some of the details, but what brings us here tonight is, in order for them to bring those additional modifications, and they're very significant modifications, amount up to $1.5 million, it would push back our due date. And I know that was very critical to council, that we're doing this with the desire to have this pool facility open in time for the summer swimming season next in the 2022 summer season. So that's really important to council, and that was the driver of all of this. But we have this offer of partnership that is very generous and very increases the features of the pool. And so to make that decision, we're going to ask that the structural architect kind of give a presentation to the council about what that $1.5 million partnership with the hospital looks like. And if this goes well tonight, then they will present the same changes and plan to the hospital board and their leadership on Thursday. But since it's important that what they approve is in line with what you would like to see in the way of facilities and amenities at at this project. So we have a couple things going on here, but I think it would be best to start with the presentation to see exactly what that, if we approve the delay in the time, what does that bring to the city? What value does that add to the pool? What amenities, what extra, features does it add to our pool project? And so I think that's important. Linda, what have I missed?
I think you hit all the high spots. I think we have an opportunity at hand to bring to our community a facility that we would not be able to do alone, or even with the stakeholders at the table. I think this new offer for partnership is one that I personally am so excited and thankful for. And brought our trusty good luck charm again. It's been at every presentation we've been able to announce something really amazing, and I again thank the CVRMC leadership team and staff for bringing this opportunity to the table. This is going to be game changing for our community. This is going to affect generations. After we are all retired and on to our next adventures, our community will still be enjoying this amazing community center. This truly is a community center, because everyone in the community has come to this project and helped to lift it up. And so thank you, Eric with Structural and David with the architecture firm to show what we are very happy to present. And
a couple of housekeeping tips is we do have some limited time. I know that the vice mayor has a deadline that he needs to be out of here, and so does Councilman Rios. And so and we do have Neil Jensen here to speak and represent the hospital and their commitments personally. So but with no further ado, I think we flip it to Eric. And Eric, if you want to introduce David and get David started on his presentation, that would be great.
Can we hold till that train goes by?
Okay. And so
they are excited.
Yeah. That is the happy whistle.
I would be surprised if they hadn't shown up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a short one.
Yeah.
Like the one on.
All right. Queued that one up perfectly. I want to thank everyone for the time. I know it's important, so we'll cut to the chase. David, who is on the line, he's going to share his screen. And again, going through, this is still very conceptual, but I think you guys will get the idea, and you'll see what everyone's so excited about. So without further ado, David, you're able to share the screen.
I am indeed. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is David Ballion, founding principal of Ballion Architects. My team, who is also on the call today, and I have been working pretty closely with Structural to present a conceptual master plan that we all have been working on along with the consultant team to evaluate the opportunities, the existing conditions, and to understand or better understand what is possible to construct with the funds and the timeline in a phased approach. I will show a phasing diagram, even though, which is one that we've been working on, but I think the purpose of this this meeting tonight is to perhaps consider not phasing the project. So I am going to skip ahead on the presentation and really get to the meat of the design. I believe everybody is rather comfortable with or familiar with the project. So I'm going to start with this page here. These are simply inspirational images based on the existing facility and what we could imagine it to become. It includes multiple uses for certain areas, like the image of the outdoor movie opportunities to be able to utilize the facility in multiple times of the year. We also have these really amazing photographs of architecture that utilizes very simple architecture that are extremely eye-catching and wonderful to experience, but are also cost-effective. And so, for example, I'll zoom in into this image just as one example. You can see here that this is a pavilion that could be used in many different ways, banquets and parties, etc. But it's rather quite simple and it's somewhat open. And so we've kind of taken design ideas with cost in mind and flexibility in mind. So these are just inspirational images that, of course, have evolved since our first presentation. So this is the kind of the vision that we see the community center becoming. The next slide is the current conditions describing the proposed demolition. We have indeed studied whether it would make sense to remove the building, the existing primary building, but we've concluded that we think perhaps keeping it is the right approach, though that's still, still a discussion point. So in red are the proposed demolished structures and potentially the small structure in the back. So the phase one scope, which is, for lack of a better term, the current scope or the minimal scope, would be the rehabilitation of the pool for swim meets, etc. A zero entry on this side, so you could just walk right in. Of course, the deep end being on the left side with swimming lanes. Also, a 1,000 square foot splash pad, which we have since relocated from this location to this location, simply because of feasibility and proximity to the building. And in this dark line is what I would describe it as the temporary fencing for the phase one. Sort of, this is what you're looking at on the screen here is a phase one design that is partial in order to meet the budget and the timeline constraints, with a temporary entry, perhaps on this side of the building, temporary ticketing, etc. Though one important factor that is becoming a challenge, in order to operate a public pool, there are minimum requirements from the health department that include restrooms and showers. For a pool of this size, we would need, this many restrooms, plus the 4 that are planned to be rehabilitated in this structure, and 2 showers. And of course, with the budget that we had, the only feasible way we could see this working is with temporary facilities. Nice temporary facilities, but temporary. Of course, this phase one also would install the utilities required for the splash pad and its future expansion. So that's what these underground sort of dashed line are indicating. Additionally, phase one could include the expansion of a future expansion to include a large water slide. So everything outside of this dark line in this gray area would be sort of the temporary construction zone, including the building, simply because of budget and time constraints. Unless there's any questions, I'll move on to the next phase, which is the completed phase, and then we can kind of go back and forth if you'd like. This is a view of the proposed pool enhancements in the phase one. Okay, and this is the sort of culmination of the phase two design. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This design essentially includes what I just described in the phase one scope, the pool, the splash pad, also a large slide, which I will show a 3D view of in a second. Kiddie slide, the zero entry, this is the accessible entry to the pool, an addition to the splash pad, so additional features, sort of an expansion of approximately the same size, culminating in about 2,000 square foot or so of splash pad. Additionally, a large lawn area for multiple uses, recreational, that could be used in different kinds of ways, depending on the time of year and the event. lots of seating types for lounging, cabanas for more intimate gathering, a separation between the kids zone indicated by this fencing around that I'm trying to draw now. Including on this side would be, lifeguard for this use, as well as a little bit of park area for, mommy time. Now I'm going to move on to a little bit more on the eastern portion of the property. So this rectangle here represents the existing building. And as I mentioned earlier, we've deemed this portion of the existing facilities usable. So we're proposing to utilize the existing facilities, though of course we'd have to replan the entire interiors to create the appropriate and required amenities for a public pool. This structure here is this is new. This would house a concession portion that would serve the park directly, the kids zone directly, and for lack of a better term, the adult zone directly. Behind it would be a sizable kitchen or warming kitchen, whichever we all feel is appropriate, with a first aid, etc., backup house areas, and then storage, lawn equipment, utility room behind that. So this is a new structure. The entry sequence is kind of a challenge because the site slopes quite vigorously. If where my cursor is now, the parking area, if you consider that elevation 0, by the current pool facility is 4 feet higher than the parking lot. So there's a large grade change in this direction that needs to be resolved. And we've kind of come up with a couple of concepts to resolve that grade change without taking too much of the interior area, which is to split this building, the existing building, creating a really beautiful grand entry, creating a very distinguished site arrival point and queuing zone for staff or for patrons to come and queue, ticketing and turnstiles to get in. And of course, just very, very briefly, the northern portion of the building would be the men's restrooms and shower and tuning facilities, whereas the southerly portion would be the women's side, as well as a little bit of staff area. On the south portion of the site, I'll keep going. On the south portion of the site is that community room or community space. Whether it's within budget to enclose it and condition it, we'll decide together, but to create a space that is free of columns and sort of a large open space with a large roof overhead. This dashed line is a sort of a proposed beautiful roof that would very quickly give the center a visual interest, as well as creating shade over this entire boardwalk area all times of the day, which allows us to play with the budget in providing the usability of a large community room with the shade. And depending on budget, we may enclose it from day one, or we may leave it open like some of those inspiration images we showed. We're trying to use creative design ideas in order to meet the program requirements with the budget that we have while doing it in a very architecturally significant way. I won't get into too much of the detail of the miscellaneous site arrangements. I will show the existing building facilities in floor plan only, just really quickly. Again, the men's restroom block being on the north side, the women's being on the south, with the grand entry sequence in the middle, and ticketing and turnstiles, etc. This is the concession building, again, serving the park, serving the kids zone and the adult zone directly, with the kitchen behind it. This kitchen is designed to include a fully functional 12-foot cooking line, if that's what we want to do, or it could be a warming kitchen only. First aid, and then back of house storage facilities. This is a sense of scale for that community space. We tried to understand how many people this could hold in two kinds of seating arrangements. One is sort of theater seating, as you see here. This nearly reaches 180 plus people in this kind of configuration. And then we also tried a banquet layout, just to get a sense of scale, and this could seat about 130 people. So just to give everybody a sense of how large that space is. This is an image of that phase 2 water slide that the pool designer is proposing, which I showed in site plan earlier. It's a really kind of cool structure. This is an image of the kiddie slide in the zero entry portion of the pool. And finally, we wanted to show a little bit of options for the temporary and the proposed final fencing design. And of course, everything I've described today is a work in progress, and the goal would be to, get your input and really have a better sense of which way to proceed. I think for for the designers and engineers, we're kind of at a crossroads because we kind of would love to, of course, have this entire center open in day one to really give that wow factor, and to be able to host, 200 patron events right from day one. But the schedule and the budget concerns for that phase 1 are certainly a challenge to do so. So we're trying to be very creative in designing the phase 1 and the phase 2 parts so that you have very little waste between the two phases, but certainly doing all of the work in one go, I believe would be more cost effective. Linda, did I capture everything?
I think you did, and thank you for including that triage area.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, you definitely, you checked all the boxes, David. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor and members of council, any questions about any of the design? And once we do that, I just want to give a couple minutes for Neil Jensen to speak, and then we can go into the discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
David, did you say that where this community room and the area that's light brown, is that all going to be wood?
The wood there that you see on the screen is representative of a change of material. Okay. Of course, a really beautiful wood would be amazing. If that's not within budget, we can do manufactured product like Trex, or we could do colored concrete. It's just a change of material to denote, for like kids to slow down. This is a dining area. This is a little bit more formal. So it's just a change of material.
And would the community room, would it be set up as a permanent structure then?
Yes, it would be a permanent structure in that there would be a roof with large overhangs and a potential to be enclosed entirely if within budget, or potentially in the future. But it would be, let me go back to some of the inspiration images. If you could imagine let me zoom into this image. If you could imagine a large roof structure with a space that's circled with columns like this to denote the perimeters of that room. And of course, if we have the budget, we'll enclose it in glass like some of these other images or walls. And if we don't, it would be this large, open, very free-flowing space.
Okay, thank you very much.
Fernando, go ahead.
Just a couple of things. I saw your fence options, and some of them looked really nice, but I was concerned about climbability. So probably be wise if it wouldn't be real easy for people to climb over the fence after hours. And then the other question I had is I was kind of really hoping that the splash pad would be open to people maybe not in the pool area that were just available to the park visitors. And so I wasn't sure that your design allowed for that.
I'm sorry, I had a little hard time, but I think I captured the question. So these fencing options are all on the table. They're just a variety of options that we can do, including, so these three over here are products that we can just simply purchase and install, some of them being decorative and others not. We can do custom wrought iron to prevent people from climbing over, and also, of course, this really nice, beautiful custom one would certainly prevent climbers. But again, this is all work in progress. We really haven't, so far we've done a conceptual master planning phase. We have not really done schematic design, and this is something that we would pay closer attention to in the next phase. And as far as the location of the splash pad, previously it was planned, let me go back to here. Previously it was planned to go somewhere here. We have relocated that due to health code requirements and other reasons. I suppose a little closer to the park area here. As I mentioned, this area is somewhat fenced off from the other portion, and we could try to make this connection stronger or allow another sort of secondary entry, if that's what I believe the question was about.
Yes, David, you answered the question. And I thought the same thing earlier this morning when we saw this. That would be easy to accommodate another entry at that end of the park.
Certainly.
You got an exit there, you could use it.
Anybody else have any questions for David right now before? Just a question to follow up with Fernando's, we're talking about the splash pad. That's a requirement to have a lifeguard on site too then, right? So there'd have to be some control there, wouldn't there?
No.
Splash pads in the valley, and that I've seen have lifeguards.
In the pool areas though, but
No, in the splash pad too.
In a standalone splash pad?
Yep.
I've never seen that at
Yeah,
a
in
park.
Florence,
And
Florence I did.
Jerry can best
It's
answer this
huge,
question.
It's huge.
Gilbert.
Yeah.
Gilbert's right downtown.
Yeah, the way we talked about it this morning, there would be a central lifeguard stand that would cover both areas. And then if it was, you're right, if it is used by itself, there has to be a lifeguard on duty. So, Eric, people were looking into that to make sure we have the regulations for Arizona on how many lifeguards are supposed to be on duty and how many lifeguard stands. So that was a question from this morning as well.
And Jerry, does it have to do with the complexity of the splash pad? I guess the more things you add, like the splash pads have even slides or different things in them, I guess, just because of injury.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more for safety than anything else, and more for accountability, because not everybody, parents are sitting there with their kids, so.
I know.
Go ahead, Mike.
Gilbert, downtown Gilbert, there's no duty. That's right there.
So, according to what we, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but according to what we heard from ADQ, the pool is considered, the splash pads are considered a pool. And we had to plumb them that way and so forth. So there's, I would assume the same regulations for a pool would require a lifeguard on duty. We can check that out. I'm not 100%, but maybe better than 50.
Go ahead, Fernando.
But regardless, the splash pad would be appropriately located. We could always figure out whether or not the fencing would be changed or modified. And
If you were going to use it without the pool, what I really liked about the drawing was the way the concession stand is set up with multiple access points that you could use as a ticketing place as well. So, we would definitely know who was coming in and out.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, the splash pad, we're concerned about the fencing and everything. What's the possibility of moving the slide over in the area where you have seating for, I don't know, whoever the people are on that side,
because the children are probably going to want to be on the slide as much as they are in the splash pad. You know what I mean? I would think we'd want to.
So there's two types of slides provided or proposed here. One is the major slide that you see down at the bottom here. The other is a kiddie slide that's in the zero entry right next to the splash pad.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
that's that
And,
little circle.
They have it. I think they have it just.
Well, they just got it marked here.
Yeah,
kiddie
just
slide.
have it marked in an area, but it's definitely can be moved to the other side. I'm sure it just.
Yeah, I would think, you know, there would be more kids interested in getting on that than playing around. You know, there's going to be some playing in the splash pad.
Well, you're gonna have, excuse me, but you're gonna have a big difference between the small little kids and the teenage kids. So the teenage kids are gonna be in.
Yeah, but those small kids
These
back
guys
there.
back here are gonna be up the big slide. They're gonna also be in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, and they're going to be over in the splash pad area
Yeah.
too with all their friends. So
Exactly. But there are, if you see the gates in the, that type of fencing, we could put a gate in anywhere. We could make it more accessible at any point. So.
no,
but-
don't get me
but-
wrong. I think the design is great. I think it's
Yeah,
amazing.
They did a great job in just a few days. So, anything else for me?
So this was part of the conversation we had, you know, is a feature that is going to attract older kids like mine over there, to keep them separated from the splash area, which is typically for the, you know, 4 and under. And so, you know, for safety and just to be able to watch the traffic in the entire footprint, it was decided that this was the best use of the space, and to, you know, be able to delineate the splash area that typically would draw the younger kids and keep them out of, you know, kids running, going down the slide, going in the pool, and then doing it right back over. You know, they're going to go 100 times while they're there. And so to keep the littles in the littles area, and then take the teens and preteens into a separate area. So, but it's still accessible. They just have to go down through the boardwalk, and then there is the feature, the kiddie slide for the smaller kids. The thought here as well was, you know, parents that are not just going to let their littles go into the splash pad by themselves. They're going to be monitored. That this was a way for those parents and caregivers to feel more safe, that their kids were within this zone. So it's like kind of a zone plan. Here's where the smaller kids are going to be, and then here's where the older kids are going to be.
And so, Mr. Mayor, if there's no more questions, I'd like to invite Neil up to explain kind of how this came to be on the hospital side.
Yeah, one more question for David on the kitchen. Is there an option for a commercial stove in there, hood system and everything, or is that just going to be a warming?
No, it's designed as a commercial. It's designed as commercial, but we can outfit it on a phase-in motion. So it'd be fully designed, but it may be through cost, we go warming and then upgrade later. But David, did you want to talk about that?
That's exactly right. We've done a few kitchens in the past, and this is the minimal equipment for a fully functional kitchen. So we have a 12-foot cooking line with a hood directly above it. But if we don't have the budget, we would simply convert this to a warming kitchen. But we did size it for a full kitchen.
All yours, Neil.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for your invitation to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity to work with the city. I can speak on behalf of our board of directors and say they're very excited, and you know, I think a lot of people are asking the question, why now? And the scope of the project increased significantly, and we felt like that together we could really have a pool, an aquatic center that when you walked in it said wow, and that's the goal. And I appreciate Structural and Mr. Balaam and the city sitting down, and I'm not an architect, don't even pretend to be a junior architect. They understand pools and they do it all the time, and they can see they've got a vision, understanding flows, workflows, how it works. And so when we came to the city and said, the hospital wants to work together and I know we were a little late to the game, make things a little more challenging. By working together, we could get a better project. And so we asked for a vision, and you can see, I think they had 5 or 6 concept drawings that have kind of circled in, I think, on some fantastic ideas that when you walk in, you'd say, wow. I think the hospital's concern and our board's concern is that the value of our money is fully achieved. And the decision and the question that we really felt was necessary was, how do we achieve economies of scale by working together? And our concern was the date, the timeline that's been prescribed. And I think in order to achieve the economies of scale and pull this together, trying to work on a pool while kids are running all around would be very difficult. Also might require extra piping, extra infrastructure that would run the cost up. So I think the hospital, I'm very committed to supporting it. The goal and the worry of our board is achieving the economies of scale necessary to get that wow. And so that's in our eyes, you know, we see that's probably necessary. I've built in phases. We've built a lot at the hospital, and it's always a lot more money. Very expensive, so. But we're very excited to be able to partner with you and I think bring something that's amazing to our community. So, and you know, our architects, well, I guess your architects have done a fantastic job, so.
Neil, thank you. And
questions?
So, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, just so you know what we're here for tonight, and I wouldn't go too far, but we had looked at a phasing where we got our contract done May 15th, but then the second phase, the additions from the hospital came in a later time. But as we looked at everything, you know, the idea of having a second entrance, separate bathrooms, temporary fencing, while the pool opens in the midst of a construction project, those first impressions, you know, matter. The request here is, if we believe, and Structural can address this, that if we can contractually push our start date back to our completion date back to, for the pool to be open back to July 15th, that'll allow them to do the design and construction of the most, if not all, of what you see in this drawing. And then we can open up as a full-blown regular entrances, everything completed, even though we're 2 months behind what we had made the commitment to the public and to the people. If they're still willing to, you know, meet that May 15th deadline, but to add in the second portion of this that would be funded by the hospital, it would be, like I say, you would have a conflict with the operation of the pool and the construction of that. And so what we're asking council is discuss that choice in between, you know, do we meet our commitment to have that open by May 15th and you know, put aside, slow down that construction, or do we push that date back and look to have both projects finished in that July 15th, allowing the season to go on and everybody to see the brand new pool in total and keep it open as long as people come. Somebody asked me, it's like, well, when are you going to close it? I said, I'll close it after 3 days of no use. If it gets chilly, I mean, we could have gone to October this summer. So we'll have a heater. We'll keep going. If people are willing to jump into the cold water, we'll keep it open. And the splash pad is debatable, but that's the discussion. But this is something that only council can decide. You have to weigh these options and decide, you know, how that would work. This meeting is being televised. This meeting is being live streamed. It'll be recorded. And if you do choose to change that deadline, this is your chance also to explain to the public why initially we said May 15th and now we're saying July 15th, because you see the value that it brings. Without this, we would have the beach entry, We would have the splash pad, we would have the bulkhead and the swimming, but we wouldn't have the changes to the bathrooms, the concession stand. We would have that with the splash pad. Well, that is have the splash pad. We wouldn't have the expanded grass area. We wouldn't have the cool roof and the cabanas and things like that. And so it really does make that leap, and the slides. Don't forget the slides. So it really does make that leap from what was a significant change initially to a world-class, comparable to all facility for the city. And the cost is, it's time or money, and the cost is that 2 months.
I'd like to open it up for comment to council, but I'm gonna go first to Vice Mayor and to Freddie if they have to leave early, because I'd like to capture their comments before they leave also. So you.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank you, Neil, and the hospital staff joining. That's what it's all about. Joining hands and doing this for the entire city. It's awesome. It would have been nice to join hands earlier, like you said, but here we are. I think this is a fantastic idea. I love all the changes and everything. Beautiful image. I was actually on council when we shut this thing down 7 years ago. So my goal is to get this thing open and get it ready. 60 days for this change, I think it's well worth it. It's beautiful. I can't see why we wouldn't do it. Really want to thank you and your staff joining us doing this. I mean, I think it'd be really cool. I mean, the July 15th thing was not set in stone, but if we could do this July 4th,
Yeah.
have that ready. I know the fire department, we're all set up to do fireworks. Have a training class.
That'd be really cool.
Huge grand opening with the city, the hospital, and everybody. I'm sure the entire city would be there.
Eric, are you listening to this?
Can you handle it?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, those are my thoughts. So I thought about this. I talked to Paul and Linda earlier today, and I've been thinking about this for days, actually. So, fantastic. I love it. It's something that we need.
Thank you, Mike. Freddie, you have any?
Still writing my notes.
Oh, still writing them? Want me to, how soon do you have?
I can shortly after 6.
Okay.
And-
Anybody have
Mayor,
any comment?
and Mr. Mayor, members of council, there are a couple members of the public that want to talk to you, but however that's your call.
Okay. So Mike, go ahead.
So by extending the contract, does that increase our costs because the contract was for May 15th? Or our structural agreement to?
The only change would be the extension of the date. There are some areas where there'll be some changes, and we'll look at those and bringing them back as change orders. We still are too early to know what they look like. One of them that we'll probably be considering is demoing all the deck rather than partial of the deck. But we're still not sure how this is going to interplay. So in addition to asking for the permission to modify the contract simply to move the date back, but also to work out an MOU, to negotiate an MOU with the hospital so we can figure out the mechanics of who approves this, who's going to monitor the construction, who's going to approve the invoices and the change orders, and how are the payments going to go. We're not even positive that whether the money is going to come through the city or go directly to them. There's a lot of details, so we would work that out, and in that portion, we would look at how we do the change orders and what falls on what shoulders.
And I will tell you, I've always had a concern about the May 15th date. It just seemed too early for the amount of the project we were going to do. And with this design and everything that's presented today, I don't think 60 days are going to hurt us. And I think not only will Globe and the city of Globe and the hospital be pleased with it, but I think the whole community from Superior to Hayden to Roosevelt to San Carlos is going to appreciate it. And I think that's that would be a smart move on us to look at this, moving it to the later date. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Freddie, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thank you. First of all, Mr. Jensen, I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate. It's very humbling to hear that, our business leaders, our large business leaders, the movers and shakers that really have an impact in our local economy, that you're stepping up and joining forces with all the other stakeholders that have committed to this project. We started this conversation, I can remember probably 2 years ago as a council, or maybe even before that. And it's humbling for me as a community leader to see this just flourish into not just let's get a pool open, but something of this magnitude and the beautiful setting that this will give to our region and our community. So I want to thank you wholeheartely for stepping up.
You're welcome.
And thank your board of directors and everybody else that has a hand in this. The talk of phasing was something that I was thinking about, but the more I think about it, the safety concerns of having a pool open and then constructing around that is probably not the best thing to do. We open ourselves up to a lot of liability if we do something like that. The cost versus benefits versus the times that we had committed to, with the grand scope of what we had committed to now a new vision, a look, very refreshing, very modern. And this is something that our community will and our region will benefit from for decades. And, because of that, I think we need to really look hard at that and say, is another 30, 60 days compared to what we're going to end up with going to really just crush the dreams, the hopes and dreams that we had. I don't think so. I think those hopes and dreams are going to still become reality. Oh, yeah. It's just now a reality that is enhanced. And so, I just want to say that, this we talk about quality of life, and this is a major function and portion of our quality of life for this community. And I know you've had conversations about how it's difficult to keep staff local because they look for quality of life and they look for family life and things like that. So that's what we want to bring. We've had numerous conversations about that, housing. But this is one of those pillars that I think we just cannot look away from. We have to accept this and just make it happen. I mean, there's just there are too many stakeholders that have stepped up for us now to look away. We have to go full bore ahead in the safest, most economical manner and see what we end up with. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to say thank you again, Mr. Jensen, for your support.
Welcome. Thank you, Freddie. Jesse, you have any comment?
Yeah. Neil, I want to commend you and your executive team and the board of directors. I think it's amazing that, we had the stakeholders and you coming to the table with that and being part of this it's amazing. It's a sense of community, bringing that community center to life, such as this. The May 15th date, if it has to be pushed back to get something like this and that, like you said, that wow factor, I'm all for it. That the community needs a win. This is a win, and it's a big win. And this council and with this amazing staff that we have, that's what we got going. So I want to again commend you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Mariano?
I think that this is a very viable and exciting project now that the hospital has stepped up. I want to thank you for the board's commitment to this particular project. It's a lesson in cooperation, and it was a long, crooked path, but here we are. The lesson is we have other infrastructure projects throughout the community going on right now. And I admonish all other entities and planners to take the high road in their planning. in the region and to pool your resources as has been done here. And they will present themselves in the next coming year. The cooperative level that this demonstrates shows that it can be done and benefits everyone in the long run. I don't have a problem with this delay. I think it's better to build it right the first time, provided that we all stick together and work productively to meet this goal. We have to stay on point on this. We need to try to get this on time and on budget, and also to work together to make that happen. There may be additional give and take down this road, and I do expect that, but the bottom line is here's a chance to make it look great the first time out and not getting any children's way, and have it all done right the first time, and then open up on a final phase. That's something I would look forward to opening. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Mariano. Fernando, you got any more comments?
I just have a lot of faith in our community, how we can pull together and get through tough times and good times, and that's why I never left. And I think this is just proof and evidence of that. I mean, the city did a tremendous job to get support early, and when this improved to the point that it was significant, I mean, it just made sense for the hospital to jump in and make it the aquatic center we were hoping for. I know that on behalf of the hospital board, they're very excited to have something of this quality and caliber and to be able to be a part of it. You know, it takes community to make something like this happen, and I think we've done it. And so thank you to the council for being willing to maybe push that date out a little bit to get something of this caliber, because I think it's just going to be fantastic. And I think it's going to be a huge draw to our community. The Piranha swim team, they're going to want to have all their big meets here in Globe. And so, and it's going to be make me very proud to be able to drive somebody up to that area and show them what we have. And it's a beautiful location. It's second to none, I think. So it would have been nice to have it centrally located, but you can't complain about this. So thank you, Neil. Thank you to the hospital. Preston, thanks for working really hard Preston worked really hard to get everybody talking together so we could get the plans done. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank you, Neil, and Preston also and your board to bring this type of vision, to combine with what we were working on. And as we said, it's been in the talks for the last 3 years, and I think it's always not been about just us in the city. It's been about our community, and bringing something that people we need quality of life. We need to invest in the quality of life of our citizens, and we see these First Fridays that are going on now, and the comments that we hear out there that they're amazed by the people being able to get together and have that opportunity to enjoy different things. And I think this is a big plus. The only negative thing I see is that we may miss a year of the Piranha swim team. That's the only thing I can see that's negative, because they start in May, and if we push it to a July date, we probably will not capture that. Hopefully they can do something, in the interim to get us to that next level. That's really the only thing I see negative about it. I mean, this is an amazing drawing. I do have some questions on the original amount, again, was $2.3 million that the city committed to. And that was with stakeholders, and we are still working at obtaining stakeholders. So the 2.3 and the commitment of the hospital, that goes above and beyond the $2.3 million commitment that the city has in the original contract. Okay.
So we're still working. We're still working for additional stakeholders.
And David presented a tremendous amount of extras and all that. Do you think that we're going to be able to see all that? Or are we going to be limited to, because we don't know the costs above the 2.3 to see all these extras. I think as a council, we don't. Do we anticipate seeing that, the entire thing happening, or is it going to be cut back with all the extras that were added besides our original contract?
The ability to do this date is based on the ability of the Cobra Valley Regional Medical Center board to make a commitment on Thursday, but it's for a framework for a rough design. There's still tile and fabric and materials that need to be decided to nail this down. And so we don't know where all the costs are to come up because they're still checking with contractors, checking with, vendors and suppliers. But I think they're going to have a number that they're going to try to stay within, do some value engineering to get the price to where it should be. But approval of this framework goes 90% of the way to know how they can move forward with where the locations of everything's going to be, where the plumbing and all of that. Eric, do you want to this is nailing it down by about 90%, correct?
I don't know if I would say 90%, but going through and trying to price it out, that is what we're currently working on. And again, understanding that this concept, if we have the buy-in on this concept, that allows us to keep moving. And I know David's still on the line, but from an architect standpoint, he's still got a lot of work to do. And usually on the construction side, we rely on what he's putting together for us to be able to get prices. So, it's very high level and lead time, stuff like that. But again, we're all working as a team, and we want the outcome to be success at the end of the day. So a lot of moving pieces here.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and that's why I think David's put in the flexibility. And they also have 2 more days to do the number crunching before they're meeting with Cobra Valley on Thursday. And I know that Cobra Valley will have questions about some of these things. So, but like I say, the only there may be some overlap, and that's where it will impact us. But it's going to be 2 separate scopes, 2 separate, and there'll be places where it overlaps and places where it doesn't. So those, like I say, those need to be looked at, addressed, and I will tell you at every step of the way, cost has been one of the things that we're worried about, that we don't have project creep that puts us way over budget or anything like that. So I think we're being conservative and we're being thoughtful that this doesn't turn into something that's much more expensive than we thought.
Yeah, and that's what I was going at, I guess, and it's an amazing project, and just to see it, but I was just, because we had committed to $2.3 million, I didn't know, because we want the full scope, that it's going to drive our cost up to in the end. That's what we as a council also need to know.
And I would say that's one of the things we need to work on, that in those areas where it would have went up anyway, I think that's where it'll affect us. For those areas that are a change because of the additional value and amenities that the hospital is bringing forward, I think that will fall on their end at some point. But it's pretty defined as there's a pool and the splash pad, the pump, the liner. That's the basis of the first contract. The second contract are the amenities on the outside, and so the overlap is basically in the footprint of the concrete. That's where they tend to overlap. But I think that's why we have this MOU, so we can kind of decide how we work through and negotiate the responsibility of the change orders. And I think that's something that 2 partners can do and figure out what a fair, equitable way to say, okay, this is our responsibility, this is your responsibility, based on just common sense. And I feel confident that we can work together to make sure it's a fair and equitable division.
No, it's amazing, and I'm grateful to the hospital stepping forward to make, you're right, that this a bigger project, something that the community, I think they were going to be impressed what we were going to put on, but I think even more so now with the additions and everything. I would love to see a 4th of July opening, like Vice Mayor said. I don't know about fireworks in the community center and fires,
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, it appears that an engineer has approached the podium and wants to speak. I warn you.
So, Mr. Mayor, maybe to answer your question, on an earlier meeting with Structural and the architects, we talked about budget and what the budget could be. They thought that they could work within that budget, but but there are so many amenities in this. If we scale back at any point, we can save money. So, you know, we want to make sure that we spend the entire budget. But we cannot tell you what that budget is before we design it. And it depends on the materials and the additional costs for that too. And, you know, I think the July 4th would be great. I don't know whether Structural would think that, but just a tidbit that Rick just told me. On July 4th, 1962, the pool was open. So wouldn't it be nice to be on an anniversary date? So, you know, anything can be done if we put the money into it. But whether we get the biggest bang for our buck is where we want to be at. So,
Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else? We'll open it.
Thank you, Jerry.
Anybody from the audience would want to also come up?
Yeah. And Mr. Mayor, we have a couple people that have text in, and Linda, are they calling in?
Well, you back up now.
Okay. Okay.
We've got this.
She lost it
I'm not
again.
sure.
Second. I don't think she wants it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Rose Domelin, and I am on the board of Copper Studies Youth Sports, the organization that has the Piranhas. I can only speak for myself. We've not had a board meeting, obviously, but this will be, I guess, the 9th summer that the community center pool will be unable to be used by them. However, when I look at that and what the wow factor is to other teams visiting, most of whom are in close driving range and could utilize the facility, you know, the grass area for the families coming, there's hundreds of kids that come to each swim meet. And even if we had it open on May 15th with temporary bathroom facilities, it sounds like a disaster to me with all those extra bodies trying to get in and out and in and out. You're not talking about a normal season day that people are swimming. Swim meets are their own beast. And so I think I can speak for myself as a board member to say that this is worth waiting that extra season, and hopefully, you know, they can have an amended season like they did last year. And the mine was very generous in allowing them to use their facility, even though it wasn't a full-blown swim season. And yeah, so I think waiting that extra time is worth getting this in the end. And thank you all.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else from the audience? Anybody on text or email that wants to comment, or you want to read any?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a comment from Kara Satter. She states, we would love to be able to swim this summer for the swim team. Would it be possible to swim for practice before the pool officially opens? Kara
And-
Satter.
Have to look at that.
And I believe that once it's ready to be swam and it's going to be open, we're not going to fill it and then hold it back. So I would believe that there's going to be a quick turnaround from when it's completed and when it's opened. So, but again, it has to be safe, and we have to be up to speed and everything like that. So I think it prior to opening, I think would be difficult, but I think the openings can happen as soon as we can get literally anybody in it. We're not going to sit on it. So
I guess an answer to her question is no, they would probably not be able to practice in it because their season starts May 15th or June 15th. That starts their swim meets. So they would probably not be able to practice in it, which limits them in their entire team, I guess.
if there was a way that we could, I mean, I'll say that if there's a way that we can safely have them in the pool when everything's, depending what's going on, and that would, we would try to make those accommodations. My goal as a city manager and as administrator is to get people in that water as soon as possible. And so if there's a way we can pull it off, we would definitely try to do that as long as everything's safe and not inhibiting the construction.
Yeah.
And there's more to that in there.
No, we have another comment from Deborah Yurkovich.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. And Deborah states, thank you for sharing the details of the pool proposal tonight. Many new exciting additions. Just some quick thoughts so far. It's a good idea to push back the commitment date for now. What will the new maintenance and operational costs be with these proposals? Will the city hire a pool management company or hire more people public works employees? And can you show a sketch of parking that supports the patron capacity? Was it 200?
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, we know that we'll have to staff up both on programming, some type of a pool point person doing the programming and scheduling, the lifeguards. We'll have summer lifeguards ourselves, and we'll have additional maintenance and operational costs that we are currently looking at evaluating building into the budget. Probably can talk a little bit more when we hit our strategic action plan and retreat. But we know there'll be increased costs, but I think they're doable. And I think that's the one thing that the city has done is the city is taking the lead on the operational costs, and we know those would be significant, but I think it's important as a priority, and we've always had that priority of opening this pool that it's going to have operational costs. But we are looking at any way we can lower maintenance or staffing if there's a way, but not at the expense of safety. So we will find out for sure the requirements, both state requirements and practical requirements of staffing, and making sure we have enough people on site to make sure that the operations are safe, fun, and doing well. Did I hit it all? Okay, good. And what was the question on the parking? Jerry, we were going to look at parking on the backside. Do you remember what we talked about parking? I don't remember.
We really need a pool design.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I know we've had conversation about parking. I know it's going to, we'll have to look at that. But I don't have anything concrete. Number of spaces required, number of spaces we can allocate. I don't have that information right now. And that's all. Yeah. That. Okay, and so I think that's all the public comments we had.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the contract modification on contract number CS 2021030.
And can I add the stipulation? Is it okay if I read that stipulation into it, and then you can approve the? Because it's I kind of got something word. And Bill, you're on the phone. I think you can listen in. But what we have would be a motion to approve the modification to modify the structural pool contract number CS-2021-0030 completion date from May 15th, 2022 to July 15th, 2022, and authorize the city manager to negotiate and approve an MOU with the Cobra Valley Regional Medical Center to address change orders, construction administration, and related overlapping responsibilities to the community pool partnership.
I would so move.
Second.
Okay, we have motion second as read. Do we have any further discussion? Still going to try the July 4th, though, right?
Yes. I think Eric will have a small corner if I put that in stipulation. So July 4th is our hopeful date, but we'll.
I wouldn't stipulate what date it is, even though you want to.
So I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed.
And
Yeah. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, we'll make sure that this information is shared and keep updates coming and make sure the public is kept in the loop. This is a community project and they need to be kept there. I did, and we do have the one second item that's just a housekeeping item that's unrelated. So, but Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you.
We'll go ahead and go to item B. We have consideration to approve the city manager to register, receive, and sign the settlement participation forms for the Distributor Settlement Agreement and the Janssen Settlement Agreement, finalizing the One Arizona Distribution of Opioid Settlement Funds Agreement.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we brought forward to council the Attorney General's settlement agreement that I think 90 of 91 cities are joining into. We've seen all that. As part of the paperwork and moving forward with all of that, there is a DocuSign that needs to be signed on behalf of the city, but because we waive our right to pursue any independent legal action, it would be up to council to authorize the city manager to sign that on the city's behalf. It's not something I think that I should do without the support of council. So the request is for council to authorize the signing by the city manager.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of city manager to sign stated documents. Just one question, do we have still one city that's holding out, or do we see that as being successful in this venture?
I have not heard. Bill, if you're still on there? What's that?
They want to take a picture.
Okay, I can't even hear anything you're
They
saying.
want to take a picture real
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Mr.
just,
Mayor, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know.
We can get that later. That doesn't have to be.
I can find out and send that out. And Mr. Mayor, before we leave though, I did want to recognize that the county manager, James Menlove, had entered and was
There he is.
sitting in on us. So that's
Okay.
all.
So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed.
And I think
Call
we
for-
want to get a picture now.
Yeah, call for a motion for adjournment.
Motion made.
Motion is second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Meeting adjourned.
You can come forward and you shake hands with Neil. We'll have the swan in the background. And all the council can stand and we get a shaking of hand. No, that'd be too large of a jar.